Hi, and welcome to The Lamp in the Library. I'm Graham.
I'm Kim.
And today we're going to be talking about books that started with promise, but then didn't live up to that promise. Not every book is going to speak to everybody all the time. Kim, at what point do you give up on a book that is not speaking to you?
Well, I do find that I give up on fiction quicker than I'll give up on nonfiction, because with nonfiction I still find that I'm learning something or getting something or perhaps arguing with the author in my mind. But with fiction, if I'm really turned off by the writing style, I may give up on it depending on its length. If it's really short, you sort of will muscle through it. But if I find that I continually just want to skim large chunks of the book, then clearly it's not speaking to me and I'm not getting much from it. And there are so many books to read that I don't feel guilty for putting some books down. Yeah,
I agree. At some point, maybe you gotta close that book or throw it across the room because it's just not working for you. I don't necessarily like to do that, but sometimes it's necessary. But I guess we're going to be talking about 4 books that were well reviewed.
Yes.
So, a lot of people do love these books,
yes,
but just they didn't speak to us.
Yeah.
And I think it's a combination of expectation and taste. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Graham, why don't you tell the viewers what inspired this topic?
Well, I run a book club, and because of COVID, we can't necessarily, we don't necessarily have access to the books that we usually do, because we ask other public libraries for those books, and that particular system is not operating at 100% capacity, so we kind of have to rely on our internal book club sets at the moment. And so it's a smaller pool. We picked this one book that is quite recent and well reviewed, and it's called The Darwin Affair by Tim Mason. And it is kind of a historical fiction, a historical thriller. It's about a police inspector in Victorian London named Inspector Field, who is trying to stop an assassination plot against Prince Albert.
Wow. So
Queen Victoria and Prince Albert and Charles Dickens and Karl Marx and Charles Darwin, obviously, are characters in this book. So I thought this would be a lot of fun. I liked the Victorian accents.
Yes.
I liked some aspects of the book. I liked how it was kind of adventuresome and kind of playing off the Sherlock Holmes and various other kind of Victorian set police procedurals. But it was too grisly for me. There was too much needless violence. It kind of had, I guess, books set in Victorian times. You have to have a Jack the Ripper type serial killer? No, you don't. Okay, I didn't want that out of this book, and that's what it had. There was way too much grisly murder, and if you're into books like that, the Hannibal Lecter type books, I think you'd really enjoy this one. It's not for me, so I probably would have given up on this book, but because it's a book club book that I'm running, I had to persevere, and it was a breezy book. I read it quite quickly, but it just wasn't what I was expecting or wanting.
Yeah, that sort of relates to the first book that I found started well, but I didn't end up really loving that much, and that's V.E. Schwab's A Darker Shade of Magic, which is a part of a larger series. I think it's a trilogy on this world building. And it got so much attention on Bookstagram and BookTube, and some reviews were pretty high for it. And I got captured by the cover art. I thought was really good, and it sounded like maybe it was a fun tale to do with magic and fantasy. But it just turned really quite violent, the same as yours, and torture, and I just felt it was unnecessary, and it's something that kind of turns me off from reading it. So I only read the one because I was just no, this isn't for me. I like my magic more whimsical, and it didn't really have that for me. So you know.
So here's another book that started promising. This is Kim Stanley Robinson, some early novels by his, a triptych of early novels that were put into an omnibus edition recently. And I had heard that his novel Pacific Edge was the greatest utopian novel ever written. So I was really excited to pick up this early novel by Kim Stanley Robinson. So I read through it. And yeah, it kind of lost steam. It was some interesting world building. Basically, it's talking about a near future society that had kind of solved the economic and environmental issues that are currently plaguing America at the moment. Yeah, it was kind of like a relaxing world where people were like hanging out and playing softball. And really, because there were no larger societal problems, they were kind of focusing in on their personal drama. That was kind of the point of the novel. I understand that. But it just was really melodramatic, and the central character was just kind of whiny. And yeah, it just lost steam for me. So, yeah. And that's no slight against Kim Stanley Robinson. He went on after this novel to write some really great science fiction, some really visionary ideas. So this book just didn't speak to me. That's all.
Well, my next selection was a book that got a lot of love, like early buzz, and it even became an award winner. But in the end, I just found it okay, and that's Hamnet. And that's not to say I didn't like it, I just found it okay. And sometimes, for some reason, you feel almost a little odd when a book is getting so much love and you're reading it and you're just going, This is another one I felt myself almost wanting to skim it a bit in parts. I just never became fully absorbed in it, but I loved the premise of it, which is about the death of Shakespeare's son Hamnet. He died from the plague, and I thought it would be interesting to read this book that sort of, you know, is trying to imagine what that was like for Shakespeare and his family, and it really, really focuses in on the character of Shakespeare's wife, who we don't really actually know that much about. So the author's really allowed to play with and imagine who she is, and it actually had a bit of that, you know, magic quality to it because she's a bit of an herbalist and she can kind of has a sense of things. And while I enjoyed that, I just didn't find it really pulled me in enough.
Right.
And I kind of almost got a little bored in the middle. But I kept reading because it does, you know, for me it picked up at the end. But overall, I just found it to be okay. But other people really loved it. And I think one of the things that's like interesting when you're, you know, you watch BookTube or you go on Bookstagram and a lot of people love a book, which the two books I've chosen have been hugely popular, is it can make you feel like a bit of an outsider because you're like, I don't love it. I just like it. What's wrong with me?
Yeah, that's it. Not every book is going to speak to you. So let us know if there are books that started promising for you, but just didn't end up living up to the promise. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell so you always know when we have a new video.
As always, we're going to keep striving to find the books that do speak to us. So in the meantime, keep well.
And keep reading.
Bye.
Bye.